because I know this first one was a big lift for our team to get some of that squared away. A couple of things to note on this. We would prefer that this Q&A session be about any questions that you guys have since you have been in Cascade and working in the current site, working in the sandbox, things like that, that may not have been covered in the previous trainings that you have attended. Once we are finished with this meeting, I'll get the recording sent out to all of you. We also will send out an updated user guide with some documentation that comes out of this meeting and a couple other things that we've noticed along the way. And then I will also include links to the previous recordings for all of you, just to keep sort of at the top of your inbox for any references we go along, things like that. So with that, are there any initial questions on this before I turn it back over to Lori? All right, Lori, I'm going to take silence as a good thing and turn it over to you.
Okay. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you.
Sure can.
Awesome. To be really honest, this is where you guys ask your questions. I have a couple of caveats I'll start with at the beginning, just so you know. For those of you that are copying and pasting, either from Word or from a website, you really, really need to use something like Notepad in between. Saw a few things where it was what happens is Word and like the old DNRC website all have HTML in the background. So when you just copy and paste right from here and put it into the back end of a website, it brings all of the code with it, which can cause some really unexpected behaviors. So what you really need to do is copy it off the web page, paste it into Notepad, and then copy it again and paste it into the back end of the website.
I actually also have something to add for that too. I found this shortcut out recently.
Oh.
If you do paste something, if you do Control-Shift-V, that removes all formatting from anything you copy. So it's just raw text.
Nice. I didn't know that.
I know, that was saved me time.
And we'll put that in the manual too for you guys, just as a reminder. You know, hopefully you don't have to copy web pages for much longer, but if you do, just remember, if you paste it, if you forget and you paste it and then you go to the front end and it's looking all kinds of wonky, there's probably a bunch of code in there. So we need to strip it out. And I think that was, I will say too, and I know that Caitlin sent out an email yesterday, and not to beat this into the ground, but just remember, especially these indexes cannot be changed. You have to leave them alone. If you change them, then it not only breaks the navigation on the front here, it also it affects the way the pages will display. So with those two things, I guess I'll open up to you guys. What questions do you have? What do you need to know? What's causing you heartburn? What can we do to make this better? How's it going?
I'm going to speak up as a non-web person, that me being able to follow the directions that have been given in both the content admin training and then the recorded video training are absolutely not helpful to me.
Okay.
It seems that both of those assume a level of knowledge of how these things work and the terminology that's used that I don't have. And it seems like it assumes somebody knows how to go from point A to point X, and it doesn't tell us anything about how to get there in between. So I, for myself, have experienced nothing but extreme frustration with trying to make any edits or even to get started in this.
Okay. Were you a part of the original meetings that we had when we were putting everybody in Sandbox?
I was not able to attend it in person, but I have watched the video behind it.
Okay. Did you, by any chance, happen to look at the paper manual that comes with that as well?
I've got something called Content Admin Training version 2.
Yeah. Okay. There's actually another version after that. And to be really honest, there'll be one more after today. As we're getting towards final, we could keep adding to it. Did you find the paper manual helped at all, or no? There's too many gaps for you.
I don't understand the terminology. When you're
Okay.
talking about widgets, when you're talking about columns, when you're talking about,
Oh,
I've got
okay.
no idea what any of that stuff means. So
Sure.
it's
Well,
like,
to be really
I-
honest with
need
you,
below level 101.
well, and I was going to say, to be really honest, with someone like you in the position that you're in, and I'd probably honestly do a one-on-one with you. We should just
Mhm.
schedule like a 30 minutes and we can go over jargon, and I can honestly show you, how the rows and columns come together on the front end and the back end. So that way it doesn't feel so daunting.
That would be helpful to me.
Okay.
And I would appreciate that. And that will then also help me explain it to other people I work with.
Absolutely. Well, let me, after this meeting, I'll send you a meeting invite. It'll probably be next week. To be
Fine.
perfectly honest, I'm moving tomorrow, so I'm off,
Oh.
and then Friday is going to be a mess. So, but next week early, I'll catch up with you and we'll get started on that. So, yeah. But thank you for speaking up about that, because you're right. Absolutely, make the assumption that you would understand what rows and columns are, and if you don't, that's going to make the rest of it really hard.
Right, and types and heading sizes and
Sure.
all
Okay.
of that is, banners. Yeah. Right.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Okay,
I'll
thank
just,
you very much.
we'll circle around, so no worries.
Thank you.
Let me ask a follow-up here question, guys. For folks that are on this, just like, feel free to chime in the chat box or like raise your hand. How many people would that be helpful for, to have like a follow-up, more of a deep dive, explain the jargon, walk through the things again? Would that be helpful for more than Paul? I think Corey maybe looks like that might be helpful. I'm seeing some thumbs up. Seeing quite a few things thumbs up. So Lori and Caitlin, let's see if we can work on that. Nikki, thank you. Even if we
Absolutely.
get another one scheduled for next week, possibly. I know a lot of people will be out with like Thanksgiving holiday, but make that recording available.
Oh, that's right.
Caitlin and Jess, I see your question in there about where's that manual at. Those were all emailed out when Caitlin did the follow-up for the initial training with each of the divisions. I will pull those down and link to them from the intranet site as well. From our, there's a website build project channel on there. I'll drop that in the chat, and I will start linking stuff on there as well.
The other
we'll
option,
make sure you
Cassie,
get...
and I just pose that question in there. Does this crew have access to that DNR digital citizen engagement team, or is that a limited scope of users that have access?
That's a limited scope on that one, Caitlin.
Okay. Well, yeah, we can absolutely record it. I'm big on recording things. So, but I also, and I'll remind, everybody too, just, it's new, it's frustrating. Learning is hard. That's, that's true for regardless of what you're learning. So please don't panic. Know that we'll find what you guys need to support you and get you there. Much like for all of you who have been making changes in Plone, it's not like it was all that I mean, honestly, I've been a web developer for years and it's not intuitive. So we will get you to a point where it feels at least comfortable enough to log in and make some basic changes and do what you need to do. And I'm sorry, what is this, Eric, before?
Yeah, thanks. So there's three sub pages that spin off the forced stewardship page, and when I go to those, there's no content in them. should I populate out those 3 subpages, or does that just mean that it's in process right now being mirrored over? And I should be patient?
More, no, actually, it depends. If it's something we're supposed to move over, it may not have made it onto the sheet. It also, I don't know what, I apologize. I don't know what division you're in. Are you in forestry or card?
Yeah,
or
forestry division.
There's a couple of pages in forestry that I'm still working on. One of them, and I'm sure you guys can understand this, pioneers. Actually, Chase is working on that one. He just took it from me today. A couple of the really big ones that, you know, pioneers has something like 105 link out pages to it. And so there was a couple that we did skip and that we're going to come back around to. But more than likely, you'll have to just send me the links for the pages you're talking about. You can always populate them. That's not a big deal. But if you want us to move it, we're more than happy to do that as well.
Okay. Yeah, unless there was maybe a different version of the spreadsheet, I do know that they made it onto the spreadsheet on the 4th Street Division end. But yeah, I'll go ahead and send you those.
Okay.
The current web pages, and then what their you know, what their names are in the new system here.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. More questions?
Cassie, you sent out a link to a portal DNRC website build project. What am I supposed to pull from what you sent out?
So I haven't added it on there yet, but I'll make sure any like that, the project manual, any of the recording links are on there as well.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yep.
And some things I started adding to, and maybe you guys aren't struggling with this yet, or it doesn't make sense yet. So you tell me. I started adding like how to, and to your manuals, like how to build out your accordions and stuff like that. Do you guys need help figuring out the widgets in the back end? And Paul, widgets are the add-ons, if you will.
Right. I mean, but yeah, so widget is an add-on, but there's lots of them, and what do they mean and how are they supposed to help me?
So if you want to create this banner with text floating over it, there is a widget for that you need to use. You don't have to know how to code this. You just have to know how to fill in the correct blanks on the form, and it will create this for you. So that's what widgets do. They tend to transform your data into something that is visual. So I can start going into widgets. This is really your guys' meeting, so let me know what actually makes sense for you and how I can help you.
Well, like I'm working at one of my pages now, and I can see it up there, but I cannot figure out how I get in to edit some text in it, because I cannot. Okay. And I go to the edit button, and it leads me to all these other places. And I still haven't found, like, okay, where is that little piece of text actually written so I can go.
Okay. No,
Lori,
that's
Paul, can we have Paul, can you share your screen, and Lori, can we walk Paul through how to get there?
Absolutely.
See, now you're even challenging me to share my screen. This is really cool.
Yeah, sorry, Paul, putting you on the spot.
Yeah, putting me on the spot. Okay. So you should see this water measurement program.
Absolutely.
Okay. All I see this text here. I want to take that out. I have no idea where it lives.
Sure. So go ahead and click the edit button.
Sure.
And so the very first row where it says banner image, and you see where it says no on there, that means they're not using it, which means everything that you have on this page is in the next row. So go ahead and click on it. There you go. And scroll down and click where it says column again. This is honestly one of the things I dislike about Cascade. So there's a whole bunch of widgets here.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
don't see my text under any of them.
So go ahead and click on the first one. And there's your text that you wanted to get rid of. So if you just like Word or any other, back-end editor, it's called where you see where it says WYSIWG. WYSIWYG,
Yeah.
exactly. So we refer to it as WYSIWYG all the time. And if you're familiar at all with WYSIWYGs, that's for the most part what you're going to be working with when it comes to content. Just those.
But see, having to click down through all that to find that little piece of text.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I get it.
Just not intuitive to some of them.
No, I totally get it. And I really wish when you clicked on the row, the column and all of that stuff would open. As a matter of fact, now that you said it, I'm glad it's not just me. I will send in a ticket to Hannon Hill and say, hey, we'd really appreciate it when you open something if it actually opened all the way. But
what you're telling me there is in this case, that widget is actually a little text block or something.
Yeah. Do you see where it says heading at the top? Right underneath widget. Yep. And then right below that, it has a heading size. Mm-hmm. And then right below that, it says type.
Right.
If you click on that right there, there's your widgets. If you scroll up and down, you'll see they're called news gallery or carousel or blocks or background image. Or if you go all the way up to the top, a block, So when we're referring to widgets and we're saying you need a widget, that is very specifically, for the most part, what we are talking about right there. This is how you control how it lays out on the front end.
Okay.
And probably, for the most part, most of you will just need the WYSIWYG, maybe some accordions. If you scroll all the way up to the very top of that, you'll see where it says accordions or blocks. And as you can see, you can click accordion, tabs, or facts, and we can go into those if we need to, but we don't have to right this second. But yeah, that's and we can go into those even further when we have our meetup, if you would like.
Okay, thank you. This is I
No.
never would have known I had to go all the way down and look under something called a widget to find that piece of text.
Sure. But good to know. And I'm glad you pointed that out because I can go back in the manual and revise that to make it a little more plain.
Okay.
Not a problem. And that's part of why we give you the manual in like a Word document. Please always feel free to make your own notes as you learn and figure things out, like what's easy for you. And also, you can explain it to yourself probably better than trying to figure out what I'm saying.
And so if I'm just typing text into this block now, I don't have to worry about that. Because I'm typing in raw text in right here. It doesn't carry any of that cut and paste format stuff with it. Okay.
Nope. You just have to start typing.
Okay.
Hey, Lori, would you use the WYSIWYG for, there's a couple spots that I wanted to create large buttons that are similar to the hub buttons that we had dealt with. Do you use that same format or is that something else?
No, I would use that.
So what do you put in it then? You do, so we can do this with Paul, but I'm assuming I put in boxes then and then do the link on the boxes. Because those top 3 lines, once you get down under the WYSIWYG stuff, really look like our current website lines as far as editing. So.
Actually, Paul, can I go ahead and share back my screen for a few minutes?
You absolutely may.
There should be like a stop share up at the top next to the leave button.
I just have to find.
Oh, I think it let me take it from you.
There we go. There you go. I just had to get that window up. You got it. You should have it.
Okay. Yep, I got it. Nikki, can you see my screen?
Oh, totally.
Okay. So the one thing I would say first and foremost is run your buttons by Cassie, because we've kind of added in everything so far that has been approved. So if we need a big button, what we can do is actually add it into the editor for you. And I'll give you an example of this. Let's see. And this is something that I added to the manual today. And we'll just go, I'm not going to actually add it, but yes, what I would do, and before I get started, I'm just going to caveat all this with Cascade, like WordPress, like Drupal, like Joomla, like every other content management system out there has its own weirdness. So once you get used to it, it's not a big deal. If say you want a learn more button, you would type it in. You would highlight the text. And then from here, it's a two-step process. It's kind of a pain. It's something I'm fighting with Hannon Hill about and have been for 2 months. But what you got to do is you got to wrap it in a div. So you go formats, blocks, div. And once you do that, you get this custom menu. And this is where your banner fonts live and a dark blue font and your button and the yellow style line. So that's where you could create this yellow style line. You can create these buttons. So once you highlight it, and that's what I'm saying, if a big button, different color buttons, that kind of stuff are things that we need added in, we can add these into these custom buttons. I will say, and it looks funky on the back end. I don't know why. If I can figure that out, I'll make it stop doing that. But don't panic. If I hit save right now on this and go to the front end, it actually looks like this. It does not look like the big long thing. It just displays like that in the back end. And I don't really know why, but does that make sense?
Yeah, and actually scroll that page down just a little bit and know that there's a delay over here too. So a little more. So the button sizes, I'm kind of, up above more news and events. I'm looking at, remember we did on the front of our hub, but you had to do extra. But I just have one page and it's way sub page where I want under your news and events, those kind of buttons that would drive somebody to the hub is one of the places we want them to drive to, and then also over to the drought thing over the climate drought group. So can we do that, or is that something that because I had written that up in my whole process and it didn't transfer at all, so.
Okay. It didn't transfer at all. You mean we didn't move it over?
I had it on a Word document, so much of that did not make it. So I'm going to try to get that written up and figured out.
Oh, okay.
So are those the two? So Cassie, do you need me to ask you for permission to do those buttons if they're buried within like the water planning and implementation group?
No, I mean, I don't think we need permission to add buttons to pages.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And you don't care what color they are?
The color should be locked, but adding
okay.
buttons should be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just going to do appropriate pictures that just kind of to get people driving people that direction. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll play with it. Thank you.
So
if you
Nikki,
need help,
I'm gonna hop in here really quick. I believe we have a little bit of a disjoint. So Nikki, you said something about pictures. I think you're talking about the actual news gallery. Is that correct? Where we have like DNRC fundraiser and an image,
right?
More so than that yellow button.
That's correct. And the yellow buttons, we'll have spots for those also, so that was really helpful to also hear. But I am looking at the bigger picture. So the picture with the DNRC fundraiser underneath.
Yeah, so it won't function exactly like this one because that is pulling from the actual news and events module or widget that we have in the site. However, it sounds like you would be more interested in using cards and tiles on your pages, which are also a widget type in there, which will then allow you to add an image, add text or icons, and some content of text, things like that on the page itself. And as Lori's showing you, that's where you can select like the number of items to display on a row and customize it as you need.
Perfect. Lori, could you, on the items per box, you moved too fast. Items per box, how many So, okay, cool. So you could
Up
do,
to
and
4.
2 would center it up on the page and stuff. Okay, great, thanks.
If you do 2, the one thing to remember with these, and this is in the I've added this into the manual. The one thing to remember is right up here, you got to do it even. If you do left, the left side's bigger. If you do right, the right side's bigger. If you do even, they're exactly even.
Okay, perfect.
So other than that, you're good. Yes. And I apologize. I misunderstood completely what you were asking for. So yes.
But I needed the other 2, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, right on. Oh, I think banners was one that came up. Sorry. You know what? We'll go to we'll create a new page from here. How's that? To create a new page, go to content and page. We'll just call this one test 3. All right. So
what is the difference between display name and title?
Oh, right on. I actually added that to your manual as well. So
Okay.
display name is right here in the very top. It's the actual like name of the page, the forward. Okay. The title can be a couple things. We didn't end up using it, but sometimes you use the title to actually just print right onto the page. In this particular instance, it's being used for Meta. It's so your page is named for Google and all of them when their bots are out looking for your information.
Okay.
And so that if you need to change the name of a page, but you don't really necessarily care what it says right here in the URL, you just want it to reflect correctly up here, or even back here, you would change the display name.
Okay.
And the title.
So in this case, in our case going forward, display name and title should match.
Oops, sorry. Yes, they usually do. Not always, but they usually do. It's pretty rare that they don't.
That's best practice to make a match then.
Yeah. And when you're starting a page, the one thing I did want to show you, because I know everyone had questions about banner images, and I don't blame you. It's not self-explanatory. You need to, banners are automatically included if you want to. All you have to do is turn it on. And then you go and you choose a file. The file size for banners needs to be at least 1600 pixels wide and 600 pixels tall in order to not be pixelated and a hot mess. Because it actually slides up underneath all of this and of course goes all the way down to the bottom of the screen for the most part. So we will just choose one of these. We're going to choose this banner. I don't know what it's actually of, so we'll call it Montana landscape for now. You have to have an alternative text. You can put a heading in if you want to. It doesn't, the heading does not affect this. This is not the heading. The heading actually comes right here. So we'll just use this one really quick. And all you so all you got to do is put in your text that you want to display on your banner. And then it's like a button. It's a two-step process. You got to highlight it. Very first, this is your heading 1 on every single page. And it needs to be a heading 1. Because it's going to tell Google what your page is about. That's what headings are for. Heading tags have very specific uses, and they're for people who use screen readers, and they are for people who use, or for bots who are trying to catalog what's going on our site. Google, all of them, Yahoo. So anyway, heading 1, and now because it's heading 1, the context menu, the custom menu came up. If it's a main page, so home page, water, forestry and fire, trust land. These pages are big banners. So they have the large banner font. The other ones are interior pages, and that's literally every single page listed right here is an interior page. So anything that's not this is an interior page. And so you're going to choose the small banner font for those. And that's because they don't, the difference actually has to do with how tall it makes the picture. So you can just do small banner font. It disappears. It is actually, it's putting in all of the where it's supposed to sit on the screen and everything already. Does that make sense? I'm going to take silence as good at this point. So if I were making this test, oh, I'm on home. I thought, oh no, I am on test. If I were making this a test page, I would add in my banner. I would add in, there's two, and you know, this is kind of a confusing part. There's two places to add in headings, and it doesn't really matter which one you use. You can use it, you can add in your heading up here, or you can actually add it in under the widget right here. The only thing I ask you guys to remember is if you already have a banner on the page, there's no more H1s. There's only one H1 per page. So after that, everything's an H2 or an H3, etc. We'll just put this in and I'll say I have one H1. Another thing with heading tags is they typically go in order. So H1, H2, H3, because it's like a waterfall, and it's used especially for screen readers, for people. It's used like a book appendix so that they know how the site's laid out and they can choose what they're looking for. So H2,
Lori,
yeah.
Can I jump in real quick too on the H1, H2, H3?
Yep.
Like Lori was just mentioning, that's really like the index for your page that tells people with like screen readers or anything else the like importance of the hierarchy of that information. So it is really important that we work on keeping one H1 and then moving to an H2. If you have things where you want the font size or the formatting to change, that's where you can do it in that that widget type with that what you see is what you get editor to adjust the font size or make it bold, anything like that.
Yes, absolutely.
But want to limit the age levels, which I know is something we're all adjusting to.
And I'm super passionate about it. I try not to be over the top, but I almost always mention it, and I will continue to mention it. It really is important. And honestly, as important it is for the bots for Google, so that way that when people are searching for information, we come up first or second. It really is important for people who cannot see. That's just a reality. So anyway, where is my... Oh, sorry. I was just going to grab some lorem ipsum and then we'll finish this page and I will show it to you. You know what? We'll just steal. Haha. We'll steal this anyway. So there we go. This is, let's say I made this whole beautiful page. I love it. It's great. It's ready. You know, one of the things, make sure you know where it's being placed. If you don't want it in the main part of the site, does it go in conservation? Does it go in the director's office? Just one of those little things to kind of keep in mind. Make sure you know where your pages are being placed. Otherwise, you may not find it again. Once you do that.
Lori, can you do that placement folder slower?
Oh, sorry.
Part of
yes.
it, there's a delay going on. So all of a sudden it's like, I haven't seen that page. So hit the
Got
DNRC,
it.
show us again those sub pages.
Absolutely.
So you click on that and you'll get that right thing showing up. Okay.
And this is recent. So these are ones that I have been in recently. Okay. You can also go to browse and then just browse the whole site, which is set up exactly. This is set up exactly like this. So you're looking at the exact same menu again, and you just need to pick. Now, if it needs to go, say, inside a folder in a folder, instead of picking this, you would actually hit this. Oh, wait, that's not a good one. Who's a good one? Conservation. Sorry. So now inside conservation, they have conservation about us, which has folders. And then there's more pages inside of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And then you got to check content and submit. I don't care about my spelling. And I just created my page. And now if I want to see it on the front end, I can hit this publish button. Although you see where this is spinning, it's still thinking about it. It's going to give me a preview as soon as it's done. So now I can see this is the banner that I put in. This is how I want it to look. This is my information. Are you guys having any more questions? I can keep going. We can go through all the widgets. We can do whatever what you guys like. I want to make sure though that we hit anything you have questions on.
Lori, I've got a question on the page you've got pulled up now.
Absolutely.
So there we see the banner image and then the H2 title below that. If I wanted to increase the spacing between rows to give things a little more space to breathe on a page, how do I do that? Or can I do that?
Oh, you totally can. But this is, and you know what? It's something I'll add to the manual as well. So what I will put in the manual is this is where it comes down to Bootstrap. And let's see here. Spacing. There is a whole spacing thing. So we use Bootstrap. We've thrown this around. For the most part, you guys don't care what Bootstrap is. What it is a library of CSS and JavaScript that has been applied to your site. And with that, it is extremely well documented, and it gives us a whole bunch of little codes that you can just add in and they'll work. So if I wanted to increase the space, I want to between this title and this image, I want to use padding, and I want to do it to the top. So it's PT, and then the way you write it, and then you can do 0, 1, 2, and these are all pre-designed and pre-set up. So what you would do in your edit, go to the row that you want to have the spacing on, and write PT-4. We'll just choose 4. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. Sometimes too, you want to get rid of padding or margin. And those are things that, you know, don't be afraid to reach out and have Chase and I help walk you through this. This is not something you're going to learn in 5 seconds. I don't expect you guys to memorize this. These are things though that are added in. Cascade is one of those because it's an enterprise content management system. It has the ability to do a lot of things. So anyway, I increased my spacing, and we'll go ahead and check our page again. I'm not going to publish it yet because we don't really need it. But as you can see, it started adding in. And I have found that while this is a nice preview, it's not exact. So, and you know what, we'll go ahead and publish it now. So if I decided this page looked good and I was ready to go, I would go ahead and hit publish right here. Can you guys see that button?
Mm-hmm.
You hit publish, you scroll down. If you click right here, instead of clicking this button, it's going to take you on a wonky ride to here or bomb out. Don't panic. It took me to what's called manage site. And what you want to do is go back to site content, find what you were working on. I can't tell you how many times I have hit that most ridiculous button that drives me insane. I wish that if you clicked on it, it would just give it to you and click the check mark. So make sure you click the check mark, hit publish. You can go ahead and open your publish queue, because it does take a second. If I went and opened the page right now, the page doesn't exist. I would get a 404 until that disappears. And sometimes you'll see on the publish queue, there's like a whole line up here of other people, other sites who have published, and you're waiting in line for your turn. Doesn't usually take more than a minute or two, but just so you know, sometimes it takes a minute before it shows up. And then I want to go ahead and see this. So I'm going to view this on the live site. Did that make sense?
I'm seeing some thumbs up, Lori. I want to address, before we move on, a couple of questions that I've been watching in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
So I know, Becky, I'm going to address this. I know Cassie answered it as well, but I've gotten a few emails about it too. So within Cascade, you guys will have access to 2 sites right now. One is called DNRC. One is called Sandbox DNRC. DNRC is the actual website that we have been developing for you guys. So that's where you're going to want to be working if you're adding in your own content, changing your own pages, things like that. This is both a test and production site, actually, which will be outlined in the guide. Right now, we only have the option for you guys to publish to test because the site itself has not gone live. In the future, when you go click that publish button that Lori just showed you, you will have an option to publish to test or production, and it will force you to make that choice of which one you want to publish to. Typically, and best practices, you're going to want to select test first, publish that page or whatever pages you're actually publishing, make sure that everything is working okay, and then publish again to production. This helps you guys do kind of a QA on what you're changing, but then also allows us to keep both the test and production sites in sync so that you guys are seeing what is out there on both sites. Helps us troubleshoot if you're having issues on one site and not the other, things like that. Looks like, Michelle, your next question was about the look of the pages. So really the style of the site is drastically different than what you guys are going for. It is a complete redesign, so things are not going to look identical between your current site and the new site that we're developing. That being said, if there are things that we need to do to help you adjust the look of your pages as far as how the content is outlined and structured on the page itself, we can help you do that. But as far as the overall global style of the website, most of it's going to look very different than what you're used to. You can take a stab at making the pages look more similar to the previous one as far as what is structured on that page, or my team can help you with that as well. And then the last question that I see, at least right now, is from Tracy, is about updating documents and PDFs. So for some of those, if there's a couple things that you can do. You can update a PDF and upload that PDF every other week and manually go in and update links if you want to. However, a different option for frequently changing documents is actually just to overwrite the existing PDF, and then you're only editing that one item instead of having to go update links. So as Lori's walking through this, she went in, found a PDF, edited the PDF itself rather than the page, and that allows you to upload a different document and overwrite the existing document. So we'd like to see you guys do this if it is the same name, same sort of content, maybe just has a few names. So in this case, maybe some names have changed, so you just need to update to the current ones. Go ahead and overwrite those PDFs rather than upload a new one, because it saves you from having to go update that link or delete any old documents, things like that. If you do have to delete a document, you're just going to find the document wherever it resides. There's 2 options that you can do. You can either right click on the name of it in the folder structure, or you can click on more in the top right and delete the document itself. What that will do, it will unpublish it from the website itself and remove it from the site. If it is linked to something, it will give you a warning saying that it has an existing relationship on a page. So Lori, if you go ahead and delete this. It's going to ask you, do we have an orphaned on here?
Oh, uh-oh,
Interesting.
already.
That's okay. Usually it gives you a warning that this asset has a relationship on the site, and it will allow you to see how many different relationships it currently has on the website, so you know where you have to go look. So in this case, one asset is using it. You can see the relationships just below and expand that accordion where it says linking to this asset. And it's going to show you exactly the page where it's linked, so you know what link is broken. Does that answer your question, Tracy? I know that's a lot of information about PDFs, but ideally, reuse is better if we can get away with it.
Sorry, it does. Yeah, I think once I kind of go through it, I might need your help to make sure that we're just doing it the most efficient way. So appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely. We can go through this with you guys again, but don't feel like this is the last you're going to hear from any of us on this. So if you start having questions or you run into something and you have questions, don't be afraid to reach out. Nikki, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks. Is this you? So I helped develop a hub last year with Lori's help. Is this I'm assuming is backed up a lot more. So if we, God forbid, click the wrong button, there's a way to pull some of that back. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely. So we have versioning turned on all of the assets. I believe we save about 20 versions of a document and a page. And so what that allows us to do is actually go see who last edited a page, what the changes were, and we can compare the current version to a past version to see which we need to restore to.
Okay, thank you.
So it's kind of a built-in fail-safe there. If you inadvertently delete something, there also is a recycle bin that it goes into, so it's not gone forever unless someone were to empty the recycle bin. So I'll go on the record of saying, try not to just go delete everything from the trash can up in that top left, because that's sort of your backup to a backup if you inadvertently delete something. Not to get too technical, but we do have the entire environment backed up from our server hosting team. But if we can avoid that, it's much easier to do with the built-in fail-safes with the versioning and the trash can that we have within the site for you.
Perfect, thank you.
All right.
I think I'll just address Michelle one last time, just knowing that you and Cassie are going back and forth. Michelle, if you want to send us some of the pages you're referring to that content doesn't make sense or things like that, we can take a look and work with you directly on those pages to see what we need to do to fix those so that you don't have to go back through and do that.
Okay, thank you. You know, one thing that we did at Dam Safety, knowing this web page was coming, is we spent a lot of time thinking about how our existing page is structured, and so we really like it to be modeled after that, I guess. So I'm just looking at some of the new pages and they're not modeled at all. It's more than format. It is content, is organized quite a bit differently. So I guess that's my concern.
You said it was the dam safety section?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we take that one offline and we'll take a look at what it is and compare it to the current and sort of re-review that section for you.
Okay, that would be good. And also one question, where are all the files that are loaded on this? Perhaps you covered that. I apologize if I missed that. Like the PDFs and, you know, pictures.
All of the files go in the docs right here.
Docs, okay.
Yeah, so when you are, let me open up a page. Oh, here we go. Haha. When you open up a page and let's say we're gonna add, of course this is gonna be harder than I need it to be. And say this is the title of my PDF.
Mhm.
I'm going to use the link button like you would in Plone or Word or whatever. And then I'm going to choose it because it's going to be internal. And then what I want to do is, if it's not already loaded, I want to go upload it. And what you need to do, and this is in the manual as well. When you get to upload, you need to make sure that you go to the docs and make sure that you actually upload it to the docs. And let's say it's, conservation. Once you have your file path right here, laid out, sorry, you can drop your file right here, or you can, go to your computer and choose it, whatever you'd like to do. Does that make sense?
Okay, and we can get to the docs with and take a look at what's in there and add and delete.
Yep, right over here. So this is all of your guys's documents so far that have been added, and as you can see, they're broke down by who they belong to. Same with, if it's not docs, it's images. And these two files should be available to you.
When you look in the docs, like I was looking under water, so if you open the docs and you open water,
Mm-hmm.
and then open water there, you've just got an incredible line of documents, and there's no organization to them except potentially alphabetically. Can you create subfolders?
Oh,
with
of
it?
course you can. Absolutely.
Okay.
And I actually highly recommend it. It wasn't, to be really honest, it wasn't decided beforehand, so they just got thrown all into the folder. But yes,
Okay.
and if you need help getting that sorted, just throw in a ticket. We're more than happy to help you with that.
So if I were to create a subfolder and then move some of these existing docs into that subfolder, that would probably break any, if those documents are linked to anything, it would probably break all those links too.
Well, actually, Cascade's pretty smart. So let's say you wanted to move these three into a subfolder.
Mm-hmm.
What I personally do is go up here and I unpublish them,
Mm-hmm.
and then I move them. And all you have to do once you're in there is just, so if you're already in water, if there was folders that would show up right here, and you would just choose the folder that you need it to go to, and Cascade will actually move those links for you.
Okay.
Once you move it though into the subfolder, and this is the trick, you have to republish everything. You've literally taken it off of the internet, moved it, and then you're going to put it back on.
Okay.
But again, and I can, that's actually something I can add to the manual. Sorry,
As far as I'm seeing, this manual is about 2,000 pages long by now.
It is.
Okay.
Although part of it is because we put so many pictures in with the arrows and stuff in it to try to make it as explanatory as possible. But yeah,
That would be appreciated.
to be really honest, I highly, again, why we give it to you in Word, I highly encourage you to create your own manual. Maybe you don't really care about banner images because that's not something you're going to do. Not that you shouldn't have access to how to do that, but maybe you actually take 5 or 6 pages that you actually do make your own notes and combine that into one quick manual for yourself when you're getting in there and doing the things that you do all the time.
Okay.
But yeah,
Sorry,
no, we can.
One point of clarification there, can we add folders into those documents or photos? Because looking at it on my view, I don't have an option to add folders. So that's always something we have to go to you guys for.
Do you want people to be able to create folders? Oh, go ahead.
So depending on your level of access, everyone should have the add content button up in the top left. And I think it's a matter of figuring out where these folders live. So if you select add content, the folders are actually in the default option. So if you select default, you have a variety of different options where you can add a block if you're really wanting to develop in a website, which I don't think covers most of you guys, but that's where you'll also see the external link file and folder that you guys can all add. External links are going to be anything outside of the DNRC website itself. Google is a perfect example of an external link that you want to create. File is where you would add any new documents that you want to add in. This can be a single document or a single image, or it can be a bulk add. That there is that option within that file. And then the folder option would create any of those subfolders that you guys are referring to. With the folders, as with almost everything, the key piece of that is the placement folder to ensure you're adding that subfolder where you want it to be.
Perfect, Caitlin. That
So
was
Cassie,
hidden in there. I could not find that.
okay, I thought that was the case because you have elevated access compared to most of the crew.
Yeah.
But as for everyone, if you feel like you don't have access to something that you need to have access, please don't hesitate to reach out to us so that we can take a look. We do have the ability to impersonate your user account so that we can see what you're seeing and actually step through and figure out where the issue is at.
This is Michelle. We would like to organize the docs folder in the same manner we had it somewhat organized on the previous system. So if you could give both Chad Hill and I access to be able to add folders, we'll try to recreate what we had before. So we spent quite a bit of time making sure that was organized, and we have images and all kinds of documents in there. So I just tried to add a content, and it looks like you're, as you said, I don't have access.
Okay, we'll take a peek at that as soon as we're off, because I did see something in the chat as well that there's only an event and a page. So it is very likely that when I was adding all of your access, I missed something on Monday. So we'll take a peek and make sure that you guys have that. The other question that's in there is from Corey about how to contact us. The easiest way is to submit it. I guess there's kind of a twofold thing. So Cassie and I had a meeting just before this, and for any feedback on the site, if there are formatting issues or functionality issues that you guys are finding while you're testing, we're actually going to create a form, a submission form that you guys can send directly to Cassie and I so we can see what kind of issues we're having in the site and get those corrected over the next few weeks. For any issues that you're experiencing, whether it's access issues, you are more than welcome to submit tickets to us over here at SITSD. We will address those as they come in. Or if you want to, for at least the remainder of this project, feel free to send emails to myself and CC Cassie on them, and we will make sure that they get addressed. Corey, I think that covers all of them. As soon as we have the feedback form though out, I will send out a link to everyone and make sure that Cassie's on there so that we don't miss anyone. I know it was hard to organize some of these meetings because there are so many of you on here. So it is very likely that I missed someone. That's why we're recording, and we'll follow up. So if you feel like you need something, there are a few different ways that you can find us.
And with that, we're at an hour. Does this feel any better yet? Or is it still just a hot mess?
I feel better about it, Lori.
Okay.
I mean, no, Laura, it's going to be a challenge, especially for those of us who aren't web people and don't work in it a lot. But I do appreciate your time in explaining this. And then I was just going to ask, so, and I think Cassie, where can we find this new updated manual that you're putting together, Lori? That's
yep. I'm working with Caitlin. We're going to get it set up to where it'll be like a shared document in SharePoint, so it can be continually updated and be a live document. And I will link to it from the intranet. When that's done, I'll send an email and make sure everybody knows where that is at. And Paul and everybody else, like, please be reassured, like, as we're getting into the website and editing and moving forward past the launch of the website, you are not going to be alone. Like, if you have questions, there will be help available. You can reach out to me. We've got SITSD available as well. And we're working on trying to outline, you know, some sort of like internal to our divisions, like super users or people that are really familiar with the website that can be kind of a go-to resource as well. So you're not, I promise you won't be alone. This is not Flown Part 2. This is Cascade. We'll be okay.
I won't leave you alone with a terrible website, I promise. Well, Paul, I will send you a meeting request and we will get that also sorted out. And I imagine we'll be talking again shortly, guys. I have no doubt that as we move through things, we're going to need to talk it out here and there. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to reach out if you need help. That's what we're here for. So if there's if you guys need anything else, now would be a good time to say it. If not, I'll let you go. All right, then. I'm stopping this recording. You guys have a really great afternoon.
Thanks so much, Lori and Caitlin. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you guys for attending.